So we learnt this from the Porsche nerds who come and did the Manti kit on the Porsche. See these tethers here? Look, so they're loose. They are loose, like that. So if you push them down, then this slides across and that goes tight. If you push it up, then that slides up. So to get a nice bit of tension on it, I just kind of like pushed it up a tiny bit and then tighten it up. And now that is nice and tight, like the rest of them. Next step, what's next step? The rear lights was the next step. 2 on the side and 1 long boomerang one in the middle. My dad slid all them into place, tighten them down, then the ducktail spoiler can go on.
This Bugatti wasn't supposed to run again. The front end was destroyed. The carbon fiber chassis had taken a massive hit. The airbags had exploded on impact. Even experienced technicians believed the damage was simply too severe. Insurance companies looked at the numbers and made the obvious decision. Write it off. For almost everyone, the story ended there. But one man looked at the same wreck and saw something completely different. Not a total loss, but the most ambitious rebuild the internet had ever seen. What happened next didn't just challenge the limits of automotive engineering. It sparked a debate that reached the highest levels of the supercar industry and forced millions of people to ask a question nobody had really considered before. When you buy one of the world's most expensive cars, who actually controls it? The owner? Or the company that built it? That single question would eventually place YouTube creator Matt Armstrong right in the middle of one of the biggest controversies modern car culture has ever seen. Because rebuilding the Bugatti was never the hardest part. Keeping it alive. That was the real battle. Everything started in Miami. Sitting inside a salvage yard was what remained of a Bugatti Chiron Sport. Calling it a damaged car almost felt generous. The front of the vehicle had been ripped apart. Carbon fiber panels were shattered into hundreds of pieces. Mechanical components hung loose beneath the chassis. The transmission housing had cracked under the force of the collision. Even the airbags had deployed with such violence that the interior looked almost beyond recognition. This wasn't just another crashed supercar. It was one of the rarest production hypercars ever built. Only a small number of Chiron Sports existed worldwide, making every single example extraordinarily valuable. But after the accident, that value seemed to disappear almost overnight. Repair estimates climbed toward staggering figures. Replacing damaged components alone was expected to cost well over $1 million. Once insurance companies reviewed the extent of the damage, their conclusion was immediate. The car simply wasn't worth repairing. For most people, that would have been the end. But that's where everything changed. Instead of walking away, entrepreneur Alex Gonzalez made a decision that surprised nearly everyone following the story. He bought the wreck. Not because it made financial sense. Most experts believed it didn't. The purchase itself carried enormous risk. Even before a single repair began, millions of dollars were already tied up in a vehicle that many believed would never drive again. But Alex wasn't buying a car. He was buying a possibility. The next question became obvious. Who could possibly rebuild something like this? There weren't many names people would even consider. Official Bugatti technicians. Factory engineers. Specialized restoration centers. Then another name entered the conversation. Matt Armstrong. At first glance, he didn't seem like the obvious choice. He wasn't a Bugatti engineer. He hadn't spent years working inside a French hypercar factory. Instead, he had built his reputation doing something very different. Taking cars everyone else had already given up on, and bringing them back to life. His YouTube channel had grown because viewers loved watching impossible projects unfold in real time. Not polished television. Not carefully scripted productions. Real problems. Real failures. Real victories. If something broke, the audience saw it. If a repair didn't work, they watched him figure out another solution. That honesty turned ordinary rebuild videos into millions of loyal followers. But this project wasn't ordinary. This was a Bugatti. One mistake could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. One wrong decision could destroy parts that simply couldn't be replaced. Even Matt seemed overwhelmed when he first inspected the Chiron. Every system inside the car reflected an extraordinary level of engineering. Nothing had been designed with simplicity in mind. The wiring. The cooling system. The carbon fiber structure. Everything depended on everything else. Removing one component often meant removing 5 more first. This wasn't just repairing a damaged vehicle. It was solving an engineering puzzle without the people who designed it. And then, the situation became even more complicated. According to the account surrounding the rebuild, obtaining factory support and official replacement parts for the damaged vehicle became a major obstacle. Without straightforward access to those components, every repair suddenly became far more difficult. Imagine trying to complete a 1,000-piece puzzle, only to discover half the pieces aren't available anymore. That's exactly what the workshop was facing. Every damaged component raised the same question: repair it, replace it, or somehow build it from scratch. The problems started piling up. First came the physical damage. Bent structural mounting points, destroyed cooling systems, broken transmission components, damaged carbon fiber. It looked endless. But physical damage was only the beginning. Then came the time. Every repair took far longer than expected. One solution uncovered two more problems hiding underneath. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. Progress slowed to a crawl. Just when the team believed they had solved one issue, another appeared. But that's where it got worse. Money quickly became another major obstacle. Custom fabrication isn't cheap. Specialized tools aren't cheap. Even transporting components across different countries added enormous costs. Unlike a normal repair shop, there wasn't a simple catalog where every replacement part could be ordered. Many components required entirely new solutions. And every solution increased the budget. Still, Matt refused to stop. Instead of replacing everything, the team began repairing what most people would have thrown away. Damaged transmission mounts were restored. Cooling components were redesigned. Custom-built radiators replaced destroyed originals. Even seemingly impossible parts were carefully studied to determine whether another Volkswagen Group component might serve the same purpose. Sometimes the answer came from places nobody expected. That's when the rebuild stopped looking like a repair. It became an engineering experiment. Every day inside the workshop started with another mystery waiting to be solved. Could this part be saved? Would another component fit? Would the electronics even recognize the replacement? Nobody knew. And neither did the millions of people following the project online. Every upload became another episode of uncertainty. Every success made viewers believe the impossible might actually happen. Every setback reminded them just how fragile the project really was. But beneath all those visible challenges, a much bigger problem was quietly growing. It wasn't hidden inside the engine, or the suspension, or the carbon fiber chassis. It was something far more powerful. A growing debate about who really has the right to repair a car after it's been sold. And as that conversation exploded across the automotive world, Matt Armstrong's rebuild was about to become much more than the story of one damaged Bugatti. It was becoming the symbol of a battle that could reshape the future of car ownership itself. The discussion surrounding the rebuild quickly spread beyond Matt Armstrong's workshop. At first, it was just another ambitious YouTube project. A crashed hypercar. A determined mechanic. An impossible challenge. But with every new video, something unexpected happened. People stopped talking only about the Bugatti. They started talking about ownership. If someone legally buys a car, shouldn't they have the freedom to repair it however they choose? It sounds like a simple question. But for manufacturers of multi-million-dollar hypercars, the answer isn't nearly that straightforward. Companies like Bugatti spend years developing technologies that push automotive engineering to its limits. Every component is designed to work within incredibly tight tolerances. Every system is tested to perform under extreme conditions. From their perspective, allowing unauthorized repairs could introduce serious safety risks and potentially damage the reputation of the brand. Supporters of that view argued that a car capable of extraordinary speeds isn't comparable to an ordinary road car. Even the smallest mistake could have enormous consequences. But millions of viewers saw another side of the story. They watched Matt solve one impossible problem after another without factory blueprints, official training, or unlimited resources. Instead of giving up, he adapted. When replacement parts became difficult to source, the team carefully searched for compatible alternatives. When damaged components couldn't simply be replaced, they repaired them. When systems refused to cooperate, they spent countless hours studying, testing, and rebuilding them until they worked again. Every obstacle became another lesson in persistence. And that's what made the project so compelling. People weren't just watching someone rebuild a Bugatti. They were watching someone refuse to let impossible be the final answer. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for. After months of painstaking work, the workshop fell silent. The cooling system had been rebuilt. The wiring had been checked. The engine had been reassembled. Everything depended on one final test. Would the legendary W16 engine actually start? For a few tense seconds, nothing happened. Then suddenly, the engine burst into life. The unmistakable sound echoed through the workshop. For the team, it was more than just an engine starting. It was proof that months of determination hadn't been wasted. The video quickly spread across YouTube and social media. Millions watched what many had believed could never happen. The rebuild was no longer just another automotive project. It had become one of the internet's biggest engineering stories. But while the public celebrated, another story was quietly unfolding behind the scenes. This is where everything changed. Around the same period, Porsche found itself dealing with challenges of its own. The company, long regarded as one of the strongest names in the automotive industry, began facing increasing financial pressure. Slowing sales in key markets. Heavy investment in electric vehicles. Rising costs. Growing competition. These factors forced Porsche to make difficult business decisions as it looked toward the future. One announcement captured the attention of the automotive world. The company said it needed to focus on its core business. That simple statement immediately fueled speculation online. Some people began linking Porsche's changing priorities with the wider conversation surrounding Bugatti and high-profile rebuild projects. Others argued there was no connection at all. The reality is that major corporate decisions are influenced by many factors, and there's no public evidence that Matt Armstrong's rebuild caused Porsche's strategic decisions. Even so, the timing kept the conversation alive. The contrast fascinated people. On one side stood global automotive companies managing billion-dollar businesses. On the other stood an independent creator rebuilding one of the world's most exclusive hypercars inside a workshop while millions watched every step. It felt like two completely different worlds colliding. The discussion soon shifted toward Bugatti's future. With the Bugatti Tourbillon introducing a new hybrid V16 powertrain, the company was entering a completely new era. It represented more than a new model. It symbolized Bugatti's next chapter. That naturally raised another question. Would future Bugattis become even more difficult for independent mechanics to repair? Or could manufacturers eventually find a better balance between protecting safety and giving owners more freedom? Nobody knows the answer yet. What we do know is that Matt Armstrong's project changed the conversation. Before this rebuild, discussions about repair rights were mostly limited to mechanics and industry professionals. Afterward, millions of ordinary viewers were asking questions about software locks, replacement parts, manufacturer restrictions, and what ownership really means in the modern automotive world. That may be the rebuild's greatest achievement. Not simply bringing a damaged Chiron back to life, but encouraging people to think differently. Matt himself never presented the project as a campaign. He simply documented the process honestly. The failed attempts. The frustration. The setbacks. The breakthroughs. That authenticity is what resonated with so many people. His audience wasn't just watching a car being repaired. They were watching resilience in action. It's also a reminder of why his channel has grown so rapidly over the years. Long before the Bugatti, Matt had already earned a reputation for taking on cars others considered hopeless. From rebuilding his partner Hannah's crashed Audi TT to restoring Ferraris, Bentleys, Lamborghinis, and Rolls-Royces, every project followed the same philosophy. Don't focus on why something can't be fixed. Focus on finding a way to fix it. That mindset, combined with the support of his father Tony and his close-knit team, transformed a simple YouTube channel into one of the most respected automotive platforms online. Whether you agree with every decision made during the Bugatti rebuild or not, it's difficult to deny the impact it has had. It challenged long-held assumptions. It highlighted the growing debate over repair rights. And it reminded the automotive world that innovation doesn't always happen inside corporate headquarters. Sometimes it begins in an ordinary workshop, with determined people willing to attempt what everyone else believes is impossible. But this story is far from over. As cars become increasingly connected, software-controlled, and dependent on proprietary technology, the questions raised by this rebuild will only become more important. Who truly owns the machines we buy? How much control should manufacturers retain after a sale? And what will the future of independent repair look like? Those answers are still being written. If you enjoy stories that go beyond horsepower and explore the people, technology, and controversies shaping the automotive world, subscribe to Turbo Drive. Every week, we bring you in-depth documentaries on the biggest stories in the car industry. Because the next battle over the future of automotive innovation may already be unfolding, and we'll be here to cover it.